Thanks for agreeing for talking to us. I mean, what I really wanted to discuss with you is this part of the newsroom's a little bit about the sort of the legacy of conflict, and sort of the impact that it has. And I know, for example, that you've had some different experiences, particularly working for the Mines Advisory Group and also for the International Red Cross in Sarajevo. So I'm just wondering if I could kind of pick those two apart a bit with a couple of questions about each, and then kind of finish off with Deaf Kids, if that's okay. Excellent.
We're delighted to.
Now, with Mines Advisory Group, you were the head of communications. How difficult was it to be able to get people interested in that kind of subject?
I mean, at the time, which was the late 90s, there was a lot of interest in the landmines issue. Clearly was being championed at that moment by the likes of Diana, Princess of Wales, David Ginola, Angelina Jolie. So, the issue was very much in the public eye, and in particular, there was a coalition of organisations working in landmine clearance, such as MAG itself, Norwegian People's Aid, and others that formed the campaign to ban landmines. That was a very well-organised campaign. It was very focused, it was targeted, and so there was a lot of traffic, airplay at that time on the need to ban landmines, and of course the need to fund clearance and rehabilitation as a result of the use of landmines, and of course associated with that unexploded ordnance. And so there was a lot of interest, and of course what's interesting now is that interest has waned. It peaked up a little bit approximately 2 years ago when Prince Harry got interested in the issue, and but like all these things, they wax and wane. I guess the challenge is that landmines are still being used. We had the recent announcement by Trump that US forces will be permitted to use such weapons. That's a real issue for us to address within the humanitarian mine action community. Because the legacy of conflict in this instance is extensive and long-term. Landmines, the construction, plastic, and such like, will stay in the ground for many years, can move around as a result of rain or other disturbance, and will still remain dangerous.
It's been
likes of Cambodia, Bosnia, obviously. Landmines are still a silent and deadly killer, and of course, what we've seen in Syria is huge amount, certainly unexploded ordnance and submunition contamination, which is going to take many years to clear. So, conflict occurs. Why? Because it results of power, territory, money, resources, hate, and whilst in some instances, certainly when you look back at history, the length of particular conflicts, Vietnam, 7 Years' War, way back in the Middle Ages, whilst those conflicts may be relatively short, the long-term legacy is ad infinitum almost.
Yeah, in the blog post that I've put up for Legacy of Conflict, there's a documentary called Remnants of War that's on the National Canadian Film Board website, and that talks very much about some of the deminers or demineurs, obviously from the French, who still now are digging up munitions from World War One. To the point, I think, where I think it was sometime in the 1990s, the French authorities stopped reporting how many farmers were killed every year because it was so high. And of course, it's also a source of employment, isn't it, in a lot of these places where people risk their lives to be paid in order to do the demining.
Well, absolutely, and I think they call that the iron harvest every year in France, and clearly, in the areas like the Somme and such like, contamination is extensive. In my experience with MAG in Angola, was that one of the prime functions or aims of the demining work was to rehabilitate soldiers that had served during the conflict, and sort of rehabilitate them to civil society, reintegrate them into existing infrastructures, and to give them gainful employment. Otherwise, they would just be moving around the place with not a lot to do. And of course, what was interesting there is that many of these miners had actually laid some of these mines in the first instance, and there were certainly occasions where the miner would go, well, actually, I know that there's a device here, or I know that area there is contaminated because I put the mines down. Wow. And whilst certainly in Western armies, there's a wish or a requirement to detail minefield maps, this is not invariably the case in low intensity sort of insurgency type conflicts, where clearly the aim of the mine laying the mines is to strike fear into civilians and soldiers alike.
Final question about Meg. This was kind of pre-social media as well, wasn't it? Sort of pre the internet that you were the head of comms. Yeah. So, I mean, what kind of impact do you think, with what you did at Meg, you would be able to make of things like social media now, particularly around personalities?
I mean, clearly, way back then in the 90s, we had significant broadsheet support, particularly from the likes of The Guardian, The Observer, and given that MAG was Manchester-based, the Manchester Evening News, significant exposure on radio and television. These days, I mean, MAG, the Halo Trust, Norwegian People's Aid, these organisations continue to have significant profile, particularly on social media. All platforms are used well and intelligently, but from a consumer's perspective, in terms of consuming such media, obviously it's click and ignore, and whether audiences, influencers, decision makers are particularly interested in the issue these days, and therefore are paying attention to it on social media, remains to be seen. As I said earlier, it peaks and troughs, and clearly, the agency of someone like Prince Harry or George Clooney, brings and puts these things into the public domain. Interestingly, a couple of years ago, there was a piece of research undertaken by Dr. Dan Brockington at the University of Sheffield, looking at the impact of celebrity on campaigns, on third sector, voluntary sector work, and then the evidence he presented did suggest that the agency of the likes of such individuals does have an impact, a positive impact.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, fascinating. I have to look that up. Actually, I'll look up that link and put it into the blog post. Let's move on to sort of Sarajevo now, because I was mentioning in my opening monologue about your Sarajevo pop art brothers that you met and stuff like that. Because again, it's just a really interesting story from that period of time. Just tell me a little bit about how you first met those guys and what they were trying to do.
This goes back to 1992, 1993, 1994, which is clearly the height of the Bosnian War. And I was a delegate to the International Committee of the Red Cross, working on the logistics program. Our area of operations was the Croatian coast into Bosnia, variously via Mostar, or from the south, or sometimes in from the north. And in and amongst all of this, difficult times, there was a small printing press by the name of Trio, who were taking pop art or popular cultural icons in terms of print, radio, television, and formatting them into, all intents and purposes, protest art, championing the cause of Bosnia, the plight of the wounded city Sarajevo, or the isolated, marginalized, cut-off city. I think reflecting the fact that the world had passed by, had forgotten Bosnia and Sarajevo. So they took well-established brand characters, for example, Benetton, Coca-Cola, the Olympics rings, and presented them as enjoy Coca-Cola, but rather enjoy Sarajevo. United Nations of Benetton, Disunited Nations of Bosnia-Herzegovina, and this was very clever stuff.
Yeah.
And certainly to me, with an eye for that sort of thing, struck home powerfully.
And you actually acquired quite a few pieces as well, didn't you? You brought back with you.
I did, yes. They produced a range of postcards and a range of posters. I think for a while I was their prime customer. I would use them as communication tools, present to people to sort of get them interested in what we were doing and in the issue. I presented a complete set to the Imperial War Museum, and if you look online at their catalogue now, they're there. And today I still have some of those pieces here at home, and they always get pointed out. And it was just the other day I was thinking to myself, that's almost 30 years ago now, which is staggering, really. And I think it's interesting to look at Bosnia now. It's still a forgotten country. It's still, I feel, disenfranchised, certainly from Europe. It's still a difficult place. High rates of poverty, high rates of insecurity, still considerable tension. And it certainly is a personal worry of mine that that's a situation that could reignite at some point.
Yeah, at any moment, yeah.
But hopefully through brokerage, through dialogue, through working together, all community groups in Bosnia, that can be avoided.
Yeah. Okay, and just finishing off now with coming right up to date. I mean, you were the founder of DKI, and you've had a recent merger as well with Soundseeker. So you're now the chair moving forward, which is great news. I mean, you still seeking to work in some of those really challenging places that Deaf Kids International got known for?
Absolutely. When I founded Deaf Kids because I was a board member of another organisation that works to respond to the needs of children affected by conflict, War Child. I learned there of the abuse and exploitation of deaf children in sub-Saharan Africa. I saw that, certainly from my experience with Red Cross and MAD, humanitarian agencies, development agencies, global health agencies, were not responding to the protection and safeguarding needs of deaf children, and so someone needed to do something about that in several respects. One, to ensure that agencies are inclusive in their humanitarian response to the needs of deaf and hard of hearing and deafblind children. Also, that deaf people, deaf communities are able to self-advocate and self-represent in terms of their own needs for protection, safeguarding, access to health, access to education and more. And also that there was a need to address the things that sometimes some issues that people don't or would not wish to talk about, such as physical, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. And but through early funding from Comet Relief, we were able to undertake some research work that evidenced to us that the sexual abuse of deaf children is endemic, because they don't have the language or the communication skills to say no. So, Deaf Kids International has worked over the last 5-6 years to look at this issue, configure a response to work through a number of programmatic and bespoke interventions to address just that issue, and it's doing that well. And the recent merger with Soundseeker that you mentioned enables it to expand its geography, to expand its reach, to progress its capability and capacity. And for me as the founder and now as the chairman, that's particularly pleasing.
That's brilliant. Well, listen, thanks very much for talking to us, Steve. I appreciate you taking time out. I've put links to all of those organisations into the blog post, which is going to go out as part of the sort of 24-hour newsroom that we're doing. And if I get any questions, can I kind of whiz them through to you to get a response from?
Absolutely, yep.
Lovely.
I'll be here. Many thanks.
Lovely.
Delighted to be on the show.
Thank you. Speak to you soon, yeah?
Cheers,
Bye.
okay, cheers, then. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.